This is a community of 60 people living in Nenets when it snows the grass. Dies there's no longer anything to eat. The Arctic is a land of extremes, deadly cold, endless darkness and brutal isolation, yet for centuries its indigenous tribes have defied nature, thriving in conditions that should be unlivable, scattered across Alaska, Canada, Greenland, Scandinavia and Russia. These circumpolar peoples have developed extraordinary traditions, from hunting in total darkness to building homes from ice. Their way of life is astonishing. However, some tribes stand above the rest. Yupik. What if the world around you wasn't just made of land and sea, but of spirits? For the Yupik people, this isn't a fantasy. It's their way of life. They believe everything in nature has a soul, from towering mountains to tiny fish. Their shamans, powerful spiritual guides, can heal the sick, communicate with unseen forces, and even bring misfortune to those who upset the balance. At the heart of their beliefs is Aleut, the spirit of the universe, the unseen force that created all life. This deep respect for nature shapes everything: their traditions, their survival, and even their art. However, their culture isn't just spoken, it's carved, danced, and passed down through generations. The Yupik transform wood and ivory into breathtaking masks and sculptures. The fascinating part about this is that each of these pieces tells a unique story. Along with them, their hypnotic dances, performed at potlatch ceremonies, are also a way to honor the past and connect with the spirits now surviving in the Arctic. Takes more than luck, it takes skill, knowledge, and incredible resilience. When it comes to that, the Yupik have mastered the land and sea, hunting seals, walrus, and caribou with harpoons, spears, and kayaks to withstand brutal winters. They built Gwich'in underground communal houses and Aina warm shelters lined with animal skins. Now, where the Yupik find wisdom in the spirits of land and sea, there's another tribe that reads the language of ice and snow. Nets. The Nenets are remarkable people who have mastered the art of surviving in one of the harshest environments on Earth, the Siberian tundra, for centuries. They've lived alongside their reindeer, developing a deep knowledge of the snow, ice, and permafrost around them. For this tribe, surviving has been engraved deep into their survival. Now, given the climate they have to live in, one of the Nets' unique skills is their ability to read the snow with a vocabulary rich in terms of different types of snow. They can predict the weather, find the best grazing spots for their reindeer, and determine when it's safe to travel in a world where climate change is rapidly altering their environment. This knowledge has never been more critical. Changing weather patterns and melting ice are disrupting their migration routes and grazing lands, putting their way of life at risk. At the same time, the Nenets live in chums, traditional cone-shaped tents made from reindeer hides. These tents are built to withstand temperatures that can drop to a bone chilling -50°C. However, there's more to the chum than just a shelter. The hides provide insulation, keeping the warmth in and the cold out. They're also so easy to set up and take down, which is crucial as the Nenets move with their herds for seasonal migrations. It's also important to know that in Net society, family is everything. They organize themselves into clans and pass down lineage through the father. Each clan has its own territory and customs, and elders hold a special place in guiding decisions. However, it's the Tardia, the shamans, who truly hold the community together as spiritual leaders. They maintain a delicate balance between humans and nature, ensuring that the Nets remain connected to the land that sustains them as more and more years have passed by. Though the Nets' lifestyle is under threat, industrial projects like the Yamal mega project have pushed into their lands, disrupting migration routes and introducing pollution. This encroachment on their pastures could spell the end of the Net traditional way of life. Their free movement across the land is no longer a given, and the very environment they've lived in for centuries is being altered in ways they can't control. It's clear survival takes many forms. While the Nets battled the brutal cold of Siberia, another tribe fought against forces far more devastating than nature itself. Allots. The term Aleut first surfaced in the 18th century, coined by Russian fur traders to describe two distinct peoples: the Unangaks of the Aleutian Islands and the Sugak of Koryak Island. While they shared a similar environment, their cultures and languages were unique. However, when Russian colonizers arrived in 1741, everything changed for the Aleut people. What started as trade soon turned into something far more destructive. The promise of commerce quickly morphed into exploitation. Fur traders eager for profit overhunted sea otter and seals, ravaging the very ecosystems the Aleut relied on disease spread like wildfire, and warfare followed in the wake of colonization. The result was that the Aleut people were practically gone. From a vibrant community of about 25,000, the population plummeted to just 2,000 by the late 19th century. The question is, how could an entire culture withstand such a devastating blow? The Aleut language Unum Tunu, once spoken by thousands, now faces near extinction with only 109 fluent speakers remaining. The erosion of their language is a direct consequence of centuries of cultural disruption, a blow to their identity that still felt today. However, in the face of such adversity, the Aleut are fighting back. Efforts to revive their language and their practices are underway with a focus on passing it down to future generations. So what practices are these? Well, the Aleut people have always had a profound connection to the natural world, steeped in animism and shamanistic practices. They saw the spirits in the sea, the wind, the land. However, when Russian Orthodox missionaries arrived, that sacred belief collided with a new religion. Christianity spread through the Aleut community, and while many converted, their old ways didn't disappear. They merged with the new. For generations, Aleut men were expert hunters. They braved the harsh seas in bidakas, their skin-covered kayaks, to hunt marine mammals like seals, sea otter, whales, and walruses. Meanwhile, Aleut women gathered fish, birds, shellfish, and wild plants like berries to nourish their people. This way of life wasn't just practical, it was the heartbeat of their community. The shared effort brought them together, forging bonds through their reliance on the land and sea. Then, of course, the Aleut people faced something no one could have predicted: World War II. In a shocking twist, the United States government forcibly relocated them to internment camps with appalling living conditions. Families were torn apart and their way of life was shattered. The pain of this injustice wasn't acknowledged until decades later. It wasn't until 1988 when the Aleut Restitution Act was passed, offering compensation. But could it ever undo the scars left behind? While the Aleut fight for their identity was shaped by colonization and war, the Kaks faced a quieter struggle. Modern policies slowly chipping away at their culture. Kaks, the Koryak people, have always lived closely with the land, guided by a deep respect for nature in their society. Leadership isn't about titles, it's about making decisions together. Families work as one, making choices that reflect the strength and unity of the group. However, there's one person whose influence goes beyond the family, the shaman. Through rituals and drumming, shaman connect with the spirit world, guiding the people with wisdom passed down through the ages. For the Koryak, nature isn't just something they use, it's sacred. In that category, one thing that this tribe holds really dear to them is an animal. For centuries, the Koryak have relied on reindeer for survival. The reindeer is their lifeline, and it provides them with food, clothing, tools, and transport. Nothing is wasted, from the meat to the hides. Every part of the animal is used. They've learned to live with the changing seasons, building semi-underground homes to survive the cold winters and sturdy tents to stay cool in the summer along the coast. The Koryak crafted boats from wood and animal skins to catch fish and marine animals. When summer comes, women gather berries and roots, making the most of the short growing season to feed their people. However, over time, outside forces have made life harder. Soviet policies aimed at changing their way of life slowly caused the Koryak language and traditions to fade. The Koryak language, once central to their identity, started disappearing as Russians took over in 2007. The Kak autonomous Okrug was merged with Kamchatka Krai, pushing the Koryak people to the edge without political voice or representation. It's a shift that has raised real concerns about losing their culture and way of life. The Chaks bond with reindeer has shaped their survival. However, they're not the only Arctic people whose fate is tied to an animal. The Gwich'in people are bound to caribou in a way that's nothing short of magical. For them, caribou, vad as they call them, are not just something they hunt, they are the very pulse of their culture, identity, and survival. As Sarah James, a respected leader, powerfully puts it, caribou are not just what we eat, they are who we are. This sacred bond is woven through every story, every tradition, and every hunt. To better understand what Sarah means, let's rewind the clock a bit. 4 generations, the Gwich'in have relied on the caribou in every possible way. These animals were their source of life, food, clothing, shelter, tools. The hides became tents that shielded them from the unforgiving elements. Meanwhile, the fur transformed into bedding and clothing, and the bones were made into essential Tools. For many years the caribou didn't just survive alongside the Gwich'in, they were essential to it. Now here's where it gets even deeper. The Gwich'in have creation myths that speak of a time when they and the caribou were one, literally inseparable. When they were separated, they vowed to forever honor the caribou, and that sacred bond still beats strong. Today every hunt is a reminder of that sacred connection, and every caribou they meet is a reminder of their ancient past. Fast forward to today, and the heart of Gwich'in life still beats with the migration of the porcupine caribou herd. The Gwich'in over time have become master trackers, understanding the caribou's every move, their migration patterns and their habitats. They've passed down this knowledge for generations. However, it's more than just hunting. It's about respect, sustainability, and ensuring that these caribou will keep returning for generations to come. What's more, the Gwich'in are stepping up in ways that go beyond tradition. They are fighting for the caribou's future when oil companies threaten the caving grounds of the porcupine caribou herd in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. The Gwich'in weren't just sitting back, they took a stand, fighting to protect not only the caribou but the very foundation of their way of life. For the Gwich'in, this fight is personal. It's about standing up to the forces that threaten the delicate balance of the world. They've always known as environmental changes and external pressures weigh heavily on caribou populations. The Gwich'in people have stepped up as fierce protectors of these majestic animals. They've become vocal adepts fighting to safeguard the porcupine caribou herd. This fight is more evident, particularly the caribou's crucial sing grounds, which the Gwich'in are fighting for in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, where oil drilling threatens to disrupt their delicate habitat. The Gwich'in Social and Cultural Institute plays a pivotal role in this battle, it seems, as the Gwich'in fight to protect their sacred caribou. Another tribe's survival hinges on a similar deep-rooted connection to the land. Evens and Eves. The Evens and Evens share a history that's as old as Siberia itself, born from ancient Tungusic-speaking tribes. This tribe first settled between Lake Bal and the Amur River over 3,000 years ago, trading stories and traditions with the Yupik people. However, when Russian explorers and Kaks showed up in the 17th century, everything changed. A fur tack called yasak was slapped on them, forcing them to expand into new lands, taking their resources with them. This marked the beginning of a complex relationship between the indigenous people and the outside world. Fun fact: the Evens also descended from those Tungusic tribes settled around the Sea of Okhotsk in northeastern Siberia. They didn't just passively accept Russian colonization, they resisted. However, by 1700-100 they too were subdued. These two groups with their shared roots have been fighting to maintain their way of life for centuries. Since those times, the Events were always on the move, using reindeer for transport and food. Their conical tents made from birch bark or reindeer hides were the perfect homes for a mobile